What I'm going to do is, some people now will turn to the wrong side and they'll just press it. They'll get the iron and press it down. I don't do that. Go to the right side, you got more control, and you can see where the finished edge is going to be. So I'll just get my needle, get my basting thread. If I can get my basting thread, remember I told you all my basting threads. Just bring this down. I'm going to need to clear this table. You should never have a messy table. So I'm just going to, all this I'm just going to chuck on the floor. Usually I've got my brush, I can't find my brush. So I don't want any of this. So you want to try and have a clean table when you're working. So I'll find my brush in a minute. I'll get rid of all that excess debris on my table. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to just baste the edge of this flap. And another tip of the day, always make your flap first. If you're making jetted pockets, some people call them jeets, jeeted pockets, jeets, same thing. I call them double jetted because there's two jettings on each, there's one jetting on each side. I've marked it, you can see where I've marked it here. And I'll show you in a minute why you always make your flap first, okay? So I'll just press over. I use a little jug here, I'll show you, because since the infection, the virus, I don't kind of stick my finger in my mouth much anymore, which a lot of tailors will do. I get a little, see this little container, put my water in, and just dab it with my fingers, and you can easily roll over the fabric. Can you see that? So that's another little tip for you there. So I'm just going to and see, I've got more control now. See how much I'm going to turn over. You turn it on the wrong side, you can see, but you're still guessing. You can see that, but you want to see the finished edge. And see, now I can see my finished edge now. Can you see this? So now I'm going to baste the whole edge of this together. Can you see what I'm doing? You see? That's what I'm doing. So I'm going to baste it all around. I just need my little turner in there again. It needs to come out a little bit more here. That's it. Let's find that. Right, so you see what I'm doing now? And then I'm just going to see, and I'm wetting my finger with my little container of water, and then I'm just rolling it over gently how I want it finished, and then I'll just baste that. Yeah. So I usually sit on my knee and do this, but I'm just showing you on the camera. But usually I would sit cross-legged or one knee over the other and just sit, and it's easier to do it. It's a bit more difficult to do it in mid-air for you, but anyway, you get the general idea. So I'm just going to carry on basting this, and then I'll get back to you when it's finished. Right, so now I'm sitting with my leg over the other at the table. I'll just get my ring light around so you can see it a bit better, so I can see myself better as well. And you can see I'm just rolling over the seam. Can you see that now? And I'm basting it. It's what I always do. Some tailors won't, some people won't. They'll just get the iron and shape it, but I don't. So I'm just going to do this now. I should use a little smaller needle, but it's fine. And then I'll just get some water, a little water there, and it's easy for me to roll it over. Can you see? And then what I do at the end is I will edge stitch it by hand, so it stops the seam from rolling over. So we'll use what we call a pick stitching, prick stitching, edge stitching, there's many names for it. And we'll do little stitches near the edge by hand, back stitches basically, and that will stop it from rolling over. See, I've got one nice point. Can you see that now on this side? It's really lovely. So I'm just going to just roll that over a little bit there. So I don't want the lining seam showing. And you can see cutting the actual lining on the bias, look, you got lovely, look, it's inside, it's beautiful. You've got the right amount of ease, everything has just gone nicely in. I haven't had to do anything, stretch it all, because sometimes you have to cut the line a little bit less, so the seam will sit inside. But when you cut it on the bias, you don't need to do it at all, especially when you're making curves, like I am on this flap. It'll just go naturally over the curve, follow the curve naturally. So, and what I do at the end of this, I will use my iron to manipulate the fabric. If it's not exactly stitched straight, you can actually use your iron to manipulate it a little bit more, so it's all totally accurate. That's pretty good. Now I'm going to decide the width, because I'm doing a waistcoat pocket. I'm not going to have it that wide. Okay, and there we have it. It's nice, and that's not even pressed yet. And look at the lining; it's perfect inside. So the width I will decide when I've done the jettings. I'll put it in and I'll decide. So I'm going to improvise the width, because on a jacket flat is 2 inches usually. That is the standard on a jacket. On the waistcoat, I'm going to make it a lot smaller, maybe 1.5 inches. I'm not too sure yet. I'll wait till I make the jettings up, the jetty pocket, and I'll place it inside. Then visually I can see how wide I'm going to do this. And then, so what you do now, I'll just turn it around here, and then I'll just, you see, get mine. And sometimes it's good to get your ruler and check the edge. Can you see that? And check the edge of the straight edge you've done, and that is perfect. That's straight. If not, you can actually manipulate it a little bit and use your iron to manipulate the edge. But if you stitch it, if your sewing is correct and it's accurate, it's fine. That's a straight edge now. We have that. Now I'm going to decide now the width, but I won't do that until the pocket's done. Now, the reason we always make the opposite days, let me just bring this around here. Try and get a better view for you here. Right, I need to clear this table, it's a bit messy, but anyway. So the reason why we always make the flaps first, because we don't want the jettings. Now we can see exactly the length we're going to do our jettings, and I'll provisionally will mark this, because I reckon this flap could be about 1.5 inches up. That may be fine. I'm just going to just quickly mark that. Yeah, I'm going to do about 1 3/4 inches up, probably 1 5/8. Just go for that, 1 5/8 up, and yeah, that should be fine. So I'm just going to provisionally put this line in. I think that looks all right. Once it's in there, yeah, it should be a good little flap. Now we do this because then we're going to see where it finishes, and even though I marked my jetty pockets, because we've got the finished flap, see it's gone over. So now we've got to make our jettings fractionally wider, and this is why we always make the flap first. You can see. Now some tailors will ease that in and then shrink out the flap. Because it's wool, we can do that, and some tailors will do that, but I'm going to get this exactly. I'm going to mark where it's going to finish here. See, it's fractionally gone over, and that's why we do the flap. You can see I need to make sure. I should have sharpened this chalk because the line's a bit too thick. And there's our new line there. That's why we always make the flap first, where it's actually going to be stitched in the jettings, and that's it. And then we have it, and that's why we make that. So hopefully you've learned 1 or 2 things along the way, everyone, and I'll see you as I progress making this waistcoat up. Ciao.